Hello my sexy people, I am Trumpasaurus, the sexiest beast in the world, and today I have quite a story to tell you. I will be telling you the story of how and why I don't go to Texas Roadhouse with the lazy boy raccoons. And boy oh boy is this a juicy one. So, it was about a month ago that I got the munchies around 3 p.m. so I decided to head over to Texas Roadhouse for some juicy steaks. However, there was one problem. Wendell and Al the lazy boy raccoons are in the fresh guacamole mansion, because Lolly the fly and the crack frats went on vacation from their punk house, so I had to pick up Wendell and Al and watch over them in the mansion. Wendell and Al were currently locked in the cage as punishment for causing trouble a few days ago, when they eaten all of Sam the Eagle's red, white and blue flavored Pop-Tarts, and they all got drunk from drinking all of Wenlock's precious hot tea. And to add the rotten cherry on top, Wendell and Al ended up having explosive diarrhea all over the place, and because of that, Sam and Wenlock put them in a cage for the night. However, since they were busy on the day I planned to head to Texas Roadhouse, I was given the task of watching over Wendell and Al in their cage. Wendell and Al hadn't eaten anything for several hours, and they were constantly complaining about how hungry they were, and because of that, I felt bad for Wendell and Al, so I decided to let them out. Once I did, I told them we'd be going to Texas Roadhouse for lunch and warned them to behave, otherwise I'd let Sam and Wenlock know about it afterwards. Wendell and Al were so happy that they kept repeating the words "yeah." Finally some food, and we headed out to Texas Roadhouse for lunch. I honestly regret taking the lazy boy raccoons to Texas Roadhouse thinking back on it now. If I had known what they'd end up doing there, I'd have kept them locked up in that cage and headed to Texas Roadhouse alone, and I truly regret not doing that. As we were headed over to Texas Roadhouse in my Yagi bus, Wendell and Al asked me if we can play the song Shooting Star by Yvette. I said okay, and they plugged in their MP3 player. I then quickly realized they weren't playing the song Shooting Star by Yvette, they were playing an audio recording of Scatfetish Sex. I quickly unplugged their MP3 player and asked them where they got that audio from. They said they got it from a porn website. I then told them they should never play any audio recording of porn in my Yagi bus. Once we arrived at the restaurant near the front of the building and went inside. To my surprise, I saw a few of my YouTube friends there. They included Garrett the Wolf, Moya Ray's Bellow, Radioactive Girl 00, Thunder Buddy 01, Karianne Lee Begley, Spasa Boy CT Studios, and of course Narwhal Ball herself. I was quite grateful to see some of my YouTube friends there. Hopefully they'd be able to keep a close eye in Wendell and Al when I wasn't looking. I got a table for me and the lazy boy raccoons next to my YouTube friends and went to order our food. To my surprise, the Cat 627 was there as a waiter, ready to take my order, and I asked how he got a job at Texas Roadhouse. The Cat 627 told me that he was working a part-time job at Texas Roadhouse ever since he stopped making EAS scenarios. Then he asked me for my order. I ordered 2 bone-in rib eyes. Afterwards I went to wash my hands in the restroom while I was waiting for the food and told Wendell and Al to watch the table. After I was done, I exited the restroom to find that Wendell and Al were gone, so I asked my YouTube friends if they saw them leave the building. Garrett the Wolf said that Wendell and Al had told them they had to use the restroom and left the table. And I knew that something wasn't right. I hadn't seen Wendell and Al enter the restroom with me, so I knew something was up. I began searching around the place for any signs of Wendell and Al. I now began to worry that they might have snuck out of the building and gone off to God knows where to pull pranks on people. But Wendell and Al had been eager to eat, so I knew they couldn't have left the place. Just then I heard angry yelling coming from the kitchen area, so I ran over to where the kitchen is to find out just what was going on. To my shock and surprise, I saw Wendell and Al eating all of the spicy food in the kitchen, and several employees were yelling at them to stop, only to be farted and burned in the face. I was so disgusted with their filthy, lewd behavior that I told them to just stop, but they refused to do so. They then tried to get into a food fight. Finally having enough, I rushed into the kitchen and dragged Wendell and Al out of there, steaming mad. I then told them, if they tried to cause any more trouble, I'd give them both an ass whooping. But they just retorted that our food was taking too long, and they were starving. I then scolded them for being filthy raccoons that made trouble. I also told them, if they don't behave and be good, I'd let Sam and Wenlock know about it afterwards. Just when our argument continues to go on in the Cat 627 came out asking what all this commotion was about. I explained to him that Wendell and Al had been misbehaving and they decided to make a pig out of themselves. And this pissed the Cat 627 off at Wendell and Al. He stomped over to the two misbehaving raccoons and told them that they better pay or else he'd have them locked up in jail. Wendell and Al responded with a loud smelly fart and said, "Oh no, we got diarrhea." Wendell and Al rushed to try and find the restroom. I followed Wendell and Al, told them that they better not make diarrhea in public, or else they'd be in even bigger trouble. I eventually found Wendell and Al with my YouTube friends, asking where the restroom was. Before one of us besides Wendell and Al made a big loud smelly fart. I then told him to not fart in public. But Wendell then said, "Oh really, you call that a fart? Wait until you see this." Wendell then let out a powerful smelly fart that almost made me and my YouTube friends gag. But Al then looked at Wendell and said, "Hey, I can do better than that." He then let out another loud fart which then mixed with Wendell's fart. This inevitably started stinking up the place in no time at all. Wendell and Al then began having a farting contest with each other. All of us began coughing and gagging, as those two idiots farted up a storm in place. I angrily told Wendell and Al to stop what they were doing at once, but they ignored me and continued their smelly farting contest. However, none of us expected to see what happened next halfway through their stupid little contest. When Wendell and Al both made the most biggest and smelliest mother of all farts, they unintentionally ended up taking a massive poopy diarrhea dump all over the floor, and this stink up the place so bad, and it actually gotten all over my YouTube friends. Narwhal Ball herself was the main victim of Wendell and Al's own diarrhea, and she passed out. Her YouTube friends took her out of the building because of this. I glared angrily at Wendell and Al and then said, "God fucking damn it, you two not only ate the spicy food in the kitchen, but also got diarrhea all over the place." And it cues the manager stepping out of his office, and said that iconic line, "What the fuck is going on in here?" I turned to see the manager, who was actually none other than Donald Duck himself, and he looked really pissed. He glared over at Wendell and Al and then said, "Just what's the big idea stinking up this place with your smelly farts and diarrhea? I just had these floors waxed and cleaned, and thanks to you, they are now a mess." I apologized to Donald Duck for all the trouble Wendell and Al had caused. Then Donald said, "You're damn right they made this mess. I don't want to see those two raccoons in here, ever again. They are now banned from Texas Roadhouse." I glared at Wendell and Al and told them to clean up their diarrhea mess. And then Wendell and Al then began to clean up their diarrhea mess until the place was sparkling clean again. Afterwards my order was finally ready and Wendell and Al began rushing towards the food, but I stopped them before they could grab my food, and told them that they weren't getting anything for causing so much trouble. Wendell and Al both whined in frustration and said that they were still hungry even after eating all those spicy foods. but I told Wendell and Al that they wouldn't be getting their order, since they made a big out of themselves and for making a big diarrhea mess all over the place. I placed my order to go, and I dragged Wendell and Al out the door, whining the whole time. I then threw Wendell and Al into the back of my Yagi bus, and we headed out on our way back to the mansion. Halfway there, Wendell and Al both said, "Oh no, we're gonna have diarrhea again." And before I could respond, they blasted a huge load of diarrhea all over the seats and windows of my bus, and it even got all over me as well, and even my food had been covered in their diarrhea. I was now completely pissed off. I had just had my car cleaned, and now thanks to Wendell and Al and their out-of-control diarrhea, it was an absolute mess. Not only that, but my lunch had been ruined. I finally headed back to the mansion and took a long-ass hot shower. I left Wendell and Al, who are still taking diarrhea dumps, outside, because I can't have Wendell and Al have diarrhea dumps inside the mansion. Sam and Wenlock were already in the mansion when I got back, and I told them the whole story. Sam and Wenlock looked really pissed after I finished telling them my story. They stormed off outside where Wendell and Al had gotten all the diarrhea out of their systems. I can hear them shouting, "Wendell and Al, how dare you to filth the smelly raccoons made Trumpasaurus lunch at Texas Roadhouse an absolute disaster. That's it, prepare for torture." I laughed at this. Even though my day was quite crappy, it did turn out swell in the end. Well, that's the end of my story. Farewell and stay fresh.